up, everyone? It's me, Steph, the alternate, your nerdy alternative, and I am joined live with It's Kim and Andy on Britney Day. Yes, The Woman in Me is finally released, and we are going to get through some of the biggest bombshells.
Here you go, Kim.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. That's so nice of you. Wow, that was
it's
like
good because I got two.
So, yeah, now that we've all read it, all three of us cover to cover, we're going to go through the biggest bombshells, the biggest takeaways from The Woman in Me. Overall, though, in one sentence or maybe one word, it's Kim. What was your reaction to the book?
Revealing.
Andy?
Oh, we're really doing one word?
Yeah, one word.
Tragic.
Okay. My word, insane. And all these bombshells that we are bringing up right now do personify all those three words and so much more. So let's get into this, shall we? So the first bombshell is that she acknowledges that Justin Timberlake used her as ammunition for his solo debut album. She acknowledges that finally directly. She's hinted it in the past, and she's dressed up as the woman in the Cry Me a River video on Instagram. So she's hinted to it, but now she's finally gone direct and is like, yeah, dude freaking used me. It was chapter 13 of The Woman in Me saying, when Justin began making his first solo album, Justified, he started being very standoffish with me. I think that was because he decided to use me as ammunition for his record. And so it made it awkward for him to be around me, staring at him with all that affection and devotion. And he ultimately ended the relationship by text message while she was on the set for the Overprotected remix video. Saying, for as much as Justin hurt me, there was a huge foundation of love. And when he left me, I was devastated. But yeah, they were still together when he was making this album. And he was making this album completely using Britney as ammunition and throwing her under the bus. Making him out to be American sweetheart and her to be the American devil. Like, when I read that, I was like, huh? Whoa, yeah. Justin, how are you going to get back from that one, mate? Right?
I thought it was interesting with that point because later on she does talk about how she doesn't feel like Justin fully understands his power when it came to her image and everything that he kind of set up for the media to start tearing her apart. But then at the same time, when she says that, you know, that she thinks he made this choice before they broke up to use her as ammunition, the amount of calculation that went into this on his part is disturbing if you really step back and think about it. And to think that he probably knew he could get away with doing this with her because she loved him so much is just so disgusting. It's so sad. And I think it really shows the reality of their relationship. Britney seemed to love him a whole lot more than he loved her.
Well, and to add a quote that I think is going to parlay into number two, Kim, I want to read this one that she says, you know, I was young and I made a lot of mistakes. But I will say this, I wasn't manipulative. I was just stupid. That's one thing Justin and Kevin ruined about me. The fact that she puts Justin in the same category as K-Fed was kind of just like sweet, like, and also just like, and the manipulation of JT in this is quite clear how he played it. We always knew that, but seeing it now from Britney's side, which he's never really fully done, it's a hard read, and Justin should definitely stop playing victim or trying to play like he's in the right here. No, dude, you look awful in this, and just apologize, and hope that she forgives you, and we can all move on. If he tries to be at all difficult about this, F him forever.
Yeah,
queuing up number two. Yeah, because Kim, number two on the list, Mr. K-Fed.
Yeah. So, Kim, do you want to take this one over? Do you have it in front of you, the document?
I do. I do.
Go for it.
So it's in chapter 23 of the book. Brittany writes, when I married Kevin, I meant it with all my heart. If you look into my eyes at the wedding photos, you can see it. I was so in love and ready for a new phase of my life to start. I wanted babies with this man. I wanted a cozy home. I wanted to grow old with him. My lawyer told me that if I didn't file for divorce, Kevin would. And what I gathered from this was that Kevin wanted to file for divorce but felt guilty doing it. He knew that it would make him look better publicly if I was the one that filed. My lawyer told me that Kevin was going to file for divorce no matter what. I was led to believe that it would be better if I did it first, so I wasn't humiliated.
She then goes on to say, I didn't want to be embarrassed. So in early November 2006, when Jaden was almost 2 months old, I filed the papers. Kevin and I both asked for full custody of the boys. What I did not understand was that Kevin would then insist I pay for his legal bills. And because legally I had set the divorce in motion, I would be held responsible in the press for having broken up my young family. So this is all about, as far as I'm concerned, K-Fed tricking Britney to file for divorce, for money, but also as well for press for his album. Because she goes on to then say that the media attention was crazy, which it was. Also saying it was probably good for Kevin's album, which came out a week before we announced our divorce. But I was vilified. Like, he was so calculated and so manipulative to push Britney to be the one to press the divorce button, because then it meant she was the evil one. She broke up the young family, so she had to pay, not only in terms of money, but reputation as well, that would enrich him financially, but also with his album. It's sick.
It's disgusting.
There's also literally a part, I don't know if you guys have it, but I'm going through my own notes. There's a part where K-Fed's like basically gushing to Britney. I saw Justin Timberlake at a party. Like, that's how clueless and awful this guy was. Like, there's a lot. But what I really love also, now that we're sort of talking just broadly, like, Britney also makes a very big point. She makes some shots at him very politely and justifiably. You know, oh, good. What was it? Sweet. It was how sweet of him, like, in his
Bless
rap
his
career.
heart.
Bless his heart.
His heart.
Like, bless his heart in the rap career.
So
Bless his little cotton socks.
She never really, exactly. She never really like attacks him, and then she explains later why. And it's clear, like, this is the father of my children. And she shares a quote that just Sarah Silverman made about them and how K-Fed would always just allow himself to be the brunt of the joke, and that really upset her. She didn't like people bashing K-Fed, even though clearly we all bash and want to bash, and I think he deserves the bashing. Again, it just goes to the character and heart of Britney of, like, she doesn't want any of that. She doesn't like when we do that because, again, it's her kid's father. So it's again tragic, because you read all these sections. There's a lot of it, guys. Pick up the book, because there's so many sections where she just talks about the truth about how K-Fed changes and wasn't around the kids. Then goes and does these interviews claiming to be the best dad. Details magazine labeled him dad of the year while he's smoking pot, ignoring them for months. And then they're all criticizing Britney, but K-Fed gets away with it, even though everyone knows how awful of a father is. It's mind-boggling, and it's done in such a way that I got to applaud her of, like, bashing him without bashing him. You know what I mean? Just sort of like, you could tell. I don't know what you think, Kim, but it's like you can tell there's a big part of this book, in my opinion, is this is for her kids to read. Like, she's trying to tell her kids in a way, like, here's what your dad did, without being, like, super disrespectful about him, but laying out the foundation and the truth so they can at least have the other side of it, since they've been with him so long. And that's, again, why I keep using tragic, because the kids become a crucial part in this book of why she's in the conservatorship and so much more that really just broke my heart.
I think she also uses these opportunities when she's talking about her exes to really explain what was the culture of misogyny in the early to mid 2000s, and the way that it was used as fuel, to really propel men, but to shame women. And that it was almost entertainment. It was just completely acceptable. So she was in a place where, even though the truth was on her side, even though she hadn't done anything wrong, it wouldn't have mattered what she said, because she had been so, like, vilified that nobody would have cared, because it was more fun to make fun of her. Yeah.
Yep.
Screw K-Fed, he's trash. Sorry, Britney.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep saying it.
Definitely
and
trash.
I hope his kids see it someday. I pray for Britney's sake that the kids wise up and grow up, and I think they will. and they will come around and realize what the world and their father did to their mom. And I hope they apologize profusely to her, because they have put K-Fed has put them under a spell. It's clear, and it's just so sad. It's so sad.
Well, let's talk about another type of trash. Jamie Lynn Spears. Yes, Britney goes in describing Jamie Lynn as a total bitch, and actually references her book as well. So she...
Sorry.
I love it. I love it. I'm here for it. I'm always here for it. So here we go. She writes, my mum was trying to recover from her divorce from my dad, which she'd finally gone through with. Depressed and self-medicating, she could barely get up off the couch. My dad was nowhere to be found, and my little sister, well, when I tell you she was a total bitch, I'm not exaggerating. We believe you, hon. We totally believe you. She says, I'd always been the worker bee. Whilst I was doing my thing on the road with Felicia, I hadn't been paying attention to what was happening in Kentwood. But when I came home, I saw how things had changed. My mum would serve Jamie Lynn while she watched TV, bringing her little chocolate milkshakes. It was clear that girl ruled the roost. Meanwhile, it was like I was a ghost child. I can remember walking into the room and feeling like no one even saw me. And the way adolescent Jamie Lynn spoke to my mother, my mouth would just drop. I'd listen to her spew these hateful words, and I'd turn to my mother and say, are you going to let this little witch talk to you like that? She then goes on to, I felt betrayed by how Jamie Lynn had changed. I'd bought a house for Jamie Lynn to grow up in. She was not exactly grateful for it. She'd later say, why'd she get us a house? Like it was some sort of imposition. But that house had been a gift. I'd bought it because our family needed a new house, and I'd wanted to have a better life than I had. And then going on to reference the book itself, she says the day the conservatorship ended, she had a lot of emotions, felt betrayed by her father, rest of her family. She writes, my sister and I should have found comfort in each other, but unfortunately that hasn't been the case. As I was fighting the conservatorship and receiving a lot of press attention, she was writing a book capitalising on it. She rushed out salacious stories about me, many of them hurtful and outrageous. I was really let down. Shouldn't sisters be able to confess their fear or vulnerability to each other without that later being used as evidence of instability?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, there's so much about Jamie Lynn that's mentioned in this. I mean, one little quick one also to add is how she totally ignored that, because I read both books. I read Jamie Lynn's book.
I'm sorry.
You guys paid me to do it, so thank you. It's the only reason I did it. But she tells that story of the Zoe 101 star, right? Who like badmouthed her. Britney confirms that was nonsense, that the girl did not bully her, and that Jamie was lying. So that was a nice thing to see her. But what was really telling to me was when she goes in and just talks about how Jamie Lynn had everything. Like Britney didn't. And Jamie Lynn was given everything, and they took her to FAO Schwartz and closed it down and bought her some crazy expensive convertible toy car that she got to drive around the city. Like Jamie Lynn really did have it all, and the mom was always waiting on her hand and foot. And when you read Jamie Lynn's book, it's just boo hoo, boo hoo, and it's just like, girl, shut up. She's so mad that Britney's going through, and angry at Britney when you read that book. Things I should have said. She's angry at Britney for not just being more normal of a sister, because it caused so much stress for Jamie Lynn. And I deplore that woman with all my heart. She is just the coldest, meanest, one of the most awful women there is. This just has no empathy. And it's echoed in the book later on, especially as Britney's dealing with the conservatorship, feeling locked up and doing all these things. Britney does not hold back and talks about how she unleashes on Lynn and Jamie. We're going to get there. But she does make sure to call out Jamie Lynn of, I tried to call you to help me, and you told me, just get over it. Just do it. Stop fighting it. That was her sister's help. And you're just like, it's horrifying. It's truly horrifying what Jamie Lynn allowed. And for her to play victim at all is a complete joke. And to Britney's credit, once again, speaks nicely. It says, at one point, even tries to write like, I'm trying to learn to give her family's lovely, and I hope someday we can. Like, she even Britney off after everything Jamie Lynn does. Britney attempts to still give an olive branch at the end, which I don't think Jamie Lynn deserves.
Yeah, something I noticed while I read the book was it seemed that with anybody in her family that had hurt her, at one point or another, she does try to extend compassion to them in some form. And that doesn't mean that she doesn't have anger. It doesn't mean that she doesn't have issues with them. It just means that she's trying to understand where they're coming from, but she doesn't excuse the behavior.
Well, speaking of the family, guys, the next one in the whole saga of bombshells from the woman in me is all about, yes, darling, dearest mama. And yeah, the bombshell from the book in regards to Lynn is that she was complicit in trapping Britney into the conservatorship. Kim, do you want to read out the piece that we've got on the document there, hon?
Sure. So it's in the book. My mom called me one day and said, Brittany, we feel like something's going on. We hear that the cops are after you. Let's go to the beach house. The cops are after me? I said, for what? I hadn't done anything illegal that I knew for sure. I had my moments. I had my wild spells. I had been high on Adderall, which she does talk about at points in the book, and acted crazy, but I didn't do anything criminal. In fact, as she knew, I'd been with girlfriends the prior 2 days. My mom and I had had a sleepover with my cousin, Allie, and my 2 other girlfriends. Just come to the house, she said. We want to talk to you. So I went to the house with them, and the photographer met me there. My mother was acting suspicious, and when the photographer got there, he said, something's up, right? I said, yeah, something's really off. And all of a sudden, there were helicopters going around the house. Is that for me? I asked my mom. Is this a joke? It wasn't a joke. Suddenly, there was a SWAT team and what seemed like 20 cops in my house. What the F did I do? I kept shouting. I didn't do anything. And I know I had been acting weird, but there was nothing I had done that justified their treating me like I was a bank robber. Nothing that justified upending my life.
See, when I read that, I was like, shiz the bed. We know that she took him at her mum on her Instagram and was like, don't be all sweet and pie because you've got blood on your hands too. She has blood on her hands. Yeah. She's absolutely complicit in trapping Britney in this conservatorship. And she's trying to make out that, you know, she was trying to help and she was trying to be the mum, this, that, and the other. Yeah, get bent. That's absolutely ridiculous.
And that's part of why, like I've been saying for a while, that I think a huge thing that Britney wants from her family is accountability. She wants them to admit what they've done and admit that it was wrong. And even when her mom apologized and did that Instagram post where she apologized, her words were literally like, I am so sorry for your pain. I've been sorry for years. But it's not about what she did. It's not about the steps that she took and her involvement in stripping her own daughter of her human rights. So that's the issue. And I totally understand why Britney is angry with her and isn't as close to her as she has been in her life.
Yeah, there's a lot of mentions of Lynn. One that I don't think you guys added, I just remembered from my notes that I definitely want to bring up. Lynn let her drink at 13. Like, was giving her alcohol at 13.
And let her drive?
The mother... Yeah, this is like you have a husband who's an alcoholic, right? You've lived this whole your life, and she's letting her daughter at 13 just drink and then drive and smoke cigarettes and do all this stuff. And there's a story that she talks about in the book where Britney's driving at age 13 and had smoked a cigarette or something, and Lynn pulls the wheel to smell her hand, literally nearly crashing the car. Thank God, like a telephone pole was in the right place that blocked the back of the car, Britney says, and otherwise they would have gone off this cliff and died because Lynn's flipping out over a cigarette smoke. And while Britney's driving at age 13, grabs the hand. And Jamie Lynn's like a baby and not even in a car seat. Like, there's just so much in this book when you see Lynn, like, Lynn, go away. You did enough. And then it gets even worse because you know, like, well, this is where it all came from. Like, all these issues that Britney's having, her mom's a mess too. Like, of course it's passed down. And then her mom's like not helping at all to help. And that's always how this works. It always is something that's passed down through generations. And it's just even more disheartening when you get later in the book and you see how much Lynn is instrumental in keeping this going. There's a point where I guess she was out drinking with friends, and Lynn flips. You can't go drinking, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, dude, why don't you focus on the dad and everything else? You were letting him get away with this shit then. And why are you letting her drink at 13 then? If you're mad at her that she's drinking now as an adult? Lynn is a complete psychopath. And the more I read, I'm just like, this woman is so unhinged and benefiting from this relationship. The fact that she leaves Jamie, knows the destruction that Jamie's caused, and then lets him control the life of their daughter. It's just unforgivable to me. And again, guys, this is her own father, her sister, her mother who are doing this to her. And everyone wonders, whoa, why is Britney crazy on Instagram? What should do? Hello, open your freaking eyes, read the book, learn why she has this trauma. It is horrifying. It's horrifying. And that's why Britney's a little still unwell. She talks about it in the book. She talks about why she does the posts. All this is stemmed from this issue. She has no one she can trust. Her whole family used and abused her, and it's heartbreaking. And yeah, Lynn, F off, Lynn. She's always in there trying to insert herself. I did no wrong. Bullshit. They talk a whole bunch about her book. While Britney's going through all of this in the conservatorship, they lock her away in a conservatorship. And what does her mom do? Goes on a book tour to talk about, I don't know how we lost her. I don't know. She's there talking, and I love it. Britney's like, she's talking to Meredith fucking Vieira while I'm like in a mental institution. And it's like, who would do that to their daughters? That not only your reaction to your daughter having a meltdown is to go on talk shows and promote a damn book. Like, it summarizes the whole problem of this family. Monetize, and zero empathy is what they've been doing her whole life. And thank God she got out of it. It's horrifying.
Yeah, and speaking of crazy people that are still involved in this story and this conservatorship, we're going to be going on to Lou Taylor, Robin Greenhill, of course, Daddy Spears, Jamie himself, but we're going to be doing that in the member-only portion of this stream. So if you're watching on the replay and you want to know all the big bombshells about those three, then guys, next thing you need to do if you're watching on the replay, click on that join button, become a Popcorn Planeteer for as little as $5.99 a month, and you'll get access to the next portion of this live stream, which is, we're going to go in on all those three and give you the biggest bombshells.
Because we promised the most leading. And I want to say there's one step before I know, because I know we're too late, and thank you for clipping this. Guys, there's so much to talk about. We're going to put it on other videos. And I will tell you the number one most shocking thing in this book is how traumatic and horrific the lockdown is at the final mental institution that they put her in. And the family does this to her because she won't continue her tour residency in Vegas. It is horrifying. We've always known the story. This story's been out there. Britney's shared course of it, but the details of it are awful. It shocked me, even as someone who knew it all. And we will be putting that in its own video as well, because it deserves its own video. And I hope you guys will support and click out all the videos we're doing about Britney to get the word out, because there's still a lot that needs to be said, and she deserves her voice to be heard. So please hit the subscribe, keep watching. And yes, if you're watching live, we're going to keep going with our book review with more reviews. Thank you, Steph and Kim, everybody. We're not done. Let's do this. Subscribe today.
And for those watching on the replay, here are some videos that you'll want to clickety-click, clickety-click.